Howdy. Welcome back to Dion Talk. How I pay $0 in taxes legally. That's the important part. I do not evade taxes, I avoid taxes. This video is going to be made because of a question that came up recently. I was at the Michael Zuber One Rental at a Time 50,000K subscriber event, and a gentleman came up to me and he said, "Hey Dion, I really like your stuff. I follow your channel, but I'm an accountant, and I'm curious how you talk often about making a couple $100,000 in profit every year, or more now, but you don't pay any money in taxes. So I want to make this video to cover exactly how I pay $0 in rental income tax. And I'm going to make some comparisons. I'm going to be a little vague. I'm going to compare if you have $100,000 to invest, and you can choose to invest in Washington State, where I invest, where it's fairly expensive, not too landlord friendly. Try to keep King County contained. But you could also invest out of state, like one of my friends. And I don't want to name the town because then you would know who I was talking about. So I'm not going to say the town he invests in, but let's say you invest in Dennis, Indiana. If somebody chose to invest in Dennis, Indiana, they could take this $100,000 and buy a property. What my brother did, he would take out a home equity line of credit, buy a property for less than $100,000, pay it off. He liked to pay it off properties. So we're going to compare the thing that's missing when it comes to taxes that hardly anybody talks about. We talk about depreciation, we talk about write-offs, we talk about the person working a W-2. Mom? I'm not talking mad about my brother. The person working a W-2 gets taxed and then gets their money. The person who gets paid from their rentals has expenses and depreciation, then pays taxes on what's left. People miss what I'm going to cover in this video. The first thing is, you have $100,000 that you invest in a property, and we're just going to use nice round numbers. Now remember, for the math nerds out there that want to attack me for what I'm going to say, this isn't about getting the math exactly right and knowing exactly what you're going to make. This is about the concept of how I pay $0 in taxes legally. So we put $100,000, we buy a property, all cash, in Dennis, Indiana, or my brother's case, a mobile home that he's going to fix up and put less than $100,000 into. And so he buys it for $100,000. We're going to get a 10% cash-on-cash return, making $10,000 in profit. Cash you get to spend, save, invest, or travel with. Versus the option of investing in Washington, putting that same $100,000 as a down payment, because properties cost more here. We're going to get that same 10% cash-on-cash return. And some people might say, well, if you invest in Dennis, Indiana, you might get more than a 10% return. And I'm going to explain how that's bad. Let that sink in. So if I put the $100,000 into my property here in Washington, I have a 10% cash-on-cash return. I get $10,000 in moolah that I can spend, save, invest, or travel with. But what I have over here that my friend that invests in Dennis, Indiana, and my brother don't like, the big scary thing, is I am carrying $300,000 in debt. You know, give all the risk to the bank. But this $300,000 in debt, my brother says, I could never sleep at night if I owed somebody money. We're getting the same $10,000. We're getting the same $10,000. We put the same $100,000 into the property. Everything's about the same until we look at this money that we owe the bank that we're not going to pay back. This is good debt. I'm not going to talk about the benefits of my appreciation is based on $400,000, not $100,000. We're not going to talk about it's exactly the same amount of money invested and the same amount of money for return. What we are going to talk about is how a lot of people haven't done the math on this. You show me the left-handed person who can write on a whiteboard. 27.5, that's it, 27.5 years. I can read it. Looks like right to me. So 27.5 years of depreciation. So if we have this 10% cash-on-cash return, we're making $10,000 here on $100,000. We're going to get 27.5 years to depreciate what's called the cost basis of the property. And this is where the math nerds can jump in and go, well, it's actually the improvements of the building versus the size of the lot, and you can break down depreciation, and that's why we hire a tax pro. I don't want to know how that works. This isn't about the exact math. This is about the concept. $100,000. We'll call that the cost basis of the property, right? Buildings might be worth less, might be less than the whole lot. Property might have been a value add, might have been worth more than they paid, whatever it is. We're just going to say the cost basis is the same as what we invested. So we put $100,000 into this property over 27.5 years. We get $3,636.363636363636 that we get to depreciate every year. $3,636 in depreciation against the $10,000 in profit that we're going to make. That leaves us with a taxable amount of money in the amount of $6,464. Now, the math nerds, ignore me if you're not a math nerd, is going to jump in and say, well, you also get write-offs. No, the write-offs come out of that money that we set aside from gross rents of that 15% that we're setting aside for repairs, maintenance, and vacancy. So we're actually making more than 10 grand, and the write-offs are going to take care of us paying any taxes on that. This is the depreciation against $10,000 of the the depreciation against $100,000 over 27.5 years means you get to write off in depreciation $3,636, leaving you with $6,464 that you're going to pay taxes on. I don't know if you like this or not, but I don't like to pay taxes unless I have to. If I have to, I'm happy to. We do need those 5 layers of defense. Now let's turn over here to the scenario where we invest in Washington, not Dennis, Indiana, and we invest in Washington $100,000 at 10%, giving us this $10,000, but we have $3,000 in debt. Our depreciation of over 27.5 years is going to be based on the cost basis of the property, which is $400,000. Right? Again, same thing. Buildings could be less, could have been a value add, there could be different things, but we're just saying the money that we put into it, when we bought it, we bought this for $100,000, we bought this for $400,000, we're going to call that the cost basis. We hire the tax pro because it's going to be a little more nuanced than that. But if we depreciate $400,000 over 27.5 years, that gives us $14,545 in depreciation against $10,000 in profit, giving us $4,515 that we carry forward in a loss towards next year. We put $100,000 into properties, we make $10,000 because we have a 10% cash on cash return. If it's more, which eventually it is for both sides, you might end up paying quite a bit more in taxes. If you put $100,000 into a $400,000 duplex and you get a 10% cash on cash return, making the same $10,000, but now you have the depreciation against the cost basis of 4 times what you invest, you are going to get to write off on just the depreciation schedule, now against the write-off amount, the money we set aside from gross rents, more profit as it increases. We get to carry forward a loss. So in 2022, when I retired, I made over $204,000 in rental profit, but carried forward a loss in taxes against 2023 that I'm getting to use against 2023 income to make sure that I still don't pay rental income tax. Now, if you feel the need to not have debt and invest in Dennis, Indiana, there are many benefits to it. But legally avoiding taxes isn't one of them. Thank you, Matt. I saw your chat there for a second, and I saw that Dividend Dave did a super chat. I appreciate it. That noise was the IRS raiding Dion's place. That actually could have come. They don't want you to know this. This is the secret they don't want you to spread. They don't want you to know. This was a random Saturday live stream. And I waited to make sure that Zuber wasn't doing a live stream this morning, and then he did a live stream this morning, so I came in after that. If you want your questions answered live during a live stream, I do those every Tuesday at 4 p.m. Pacific, and the live streams generally go as long as the questions do. Until my next video, also last thing, ignore this in Futureland. If you're in the members only group today, I think it's 3 p.m. Pacific, we're doing that live stream that you guys asked for on how to start and grow a YouTube channel. Until my next video, thanks for coming to my Dion Talk.